Hi there, and welcome to the presentation today, Mindful Living, Strategies for Managing Stress. My name is Erin Peisach. I am a health educator here at Rees-Stealy Center for Health Management. And today we are going to discuss the basics of stress management and hopefully help you build out that toolbox. We know everyone's different, everyone's coming into this presentation with a different approach to stress. But again, we are here today to help build those skills and hopefully have some better outcomes. We will first start with defining stress, going over stress triggers and symptoms. We'll discuss stress management techniques and even practice a few, and go over best practices for cultivating new stress management habits. Let's start with defining stress. It is the non-specific response of the body to any demand for change. So what does that mean exactly? Well, essentially, we can use the caveman idea where we are our ancient ancestors once roaming around looking for food to survive, and all of a sudden, the saber-toothed tiger comes approaching out of the bushes, and that immediate automatic response to that threat, to that danger. Let's call that stress, right? And what do we do in that moment? We don't even think. We either fight or we flight. We run away from that danger. And this will happen automatically in our body, whether it's an actual threat or stress or even just a perceived stress, something in our mind that's stressing us out. It's the same physiologic response. So let's dive into what that's actually doing to our body. Again, we don't control this. This will happen automatically for you. But essentially, there's two main hormones involved in the stress response, adrenaline and cortisol. Both of these hormones will flood the system and really get you energized and ready for what's about to happen, what that threat is in front of you. And when those hormones are flooded in the body, quite a few responses will occur to help support the fight or flight response. So, for instance, we'll get an increased heart rate. That'll actually help with pumping blood out to our muscles to help with that flight or fight response, getting us, nice and ready to react physically. We also get accelerated breathing. So we'll find that the brain will actually get more oxygen to it, which helps with alertness and again, that energy we need to react. A few of these other responses are seen in this image to our right, where we'll find things like, again, our muscles become tight, tense, and ready to respond. The blood vessels will actually increase in size, allowing more blood flow. Our lungs will notice will be breathing deeper, which again adds more oxygen to our system. Our pupils will dilate, and things that are not as urgent for survival will actually slow down or stop so that we can use more of our energy for the fight or flight response. So, for instance, our digestive system will slow down or even stop because while it is necessary, we know we don't really need to digest right now when we're trying to run away from danger. So you can see here the output of digestive enzymes decreases, and there might be changes in bowel movements or digestion of food. So, for the short term, we know that this is actually a positive response. This has helped us to survive all of these years with all the stressors that have been thrown at us, and we are doing quite well with stress because again, it gets us away from danger, it gets us moving, and in a lot of present day examples, it's our motivation, it's our fuel. It gets us out of bed, it gets us to study for that exam or work hard, or get up early to get everything done, right? If we didn't have stress, we might be a little more lackadaisical with our approach to life. So we do need that, but in the short term, when that reaction that I just mentioned is chronic or long-term, it never has an opportunity to turn off, that's when stress can become quite damaging to our health, can be inflammatory, and it never really allows the body to recover, because we know that feeling of immediate stress. Um, it's fatiguing, right? Once your stress level goes back down, you're like, "Whew, I'm exhausted." But if it's always at that high level, we never get an opportunity to relax, cool down, and recover. So that's what we're really going to be talking about today: ways to improve the long term chronic stress in our life. So we'll go over these main topics today: identifying our triggers, knowing our stress response, and of course, going over some management techniques. So, first, when we identify what stress is, let's first use this bucket analogy, because this day and age, we all have lots of different stressors going on in our life, and we might have varying degrees of efficiency with managing those stressors, right? And so, what happens is either the more stressors you have, or the more stressful they are perceived as, we only have a certain amount of energy to manage stress. So we use this bucket analogy to describe that, where, maybe you first wake up, you have certain things you need to manage and do, and deadlines and finances and traffic and the gym, and it's crowded and all these things. And all of a sudden, the bucket overflows, that feeling of just being overwhelmed with stress and not even able to adequately tackle it. So we do need to get ahead of that overflowing bucket and find ways to not say stress will never exist in our life. We don't want that, but to keep the bucket at bay and preventing the overflow and that overwhelming feeling. So, what are some of your specific stressors? They're different for everyone. And currently, we know there are maybe some new stressors in our lives we never really thought we'd have to deal with, like a global pandemic. But we have things like finances, deadlines, caregiving, health, holidays, relationships, school, work. These didn't go anywhere, right? But we might have a whole new set of stressors upon us right now. And so, really take some time to identify what your triggers are, what might feel particularly challenging to you, what versus what is more manageable to you. Okay, so next we want to think about, how does stress affect you? We know that we have stress. We know that different things cause different levels of stress, but personally, how do you feel when you are stressed? We all react differently. But I know for me, I'll start to even notice that I'm stressed, even if it's a subconscious stress, when my sleep is suffering. I just can't get to sleep, or I can't stay asleep. That's my first red flag. We all have our own. Maybe it's the muscles tensing, or the jaw clenching. Maybe it's a tension headache. Maybe it's our food cravings might change, right? So just identify what yours are. But here's a quick overview of some of the more common physical, emotional, and cognitive symptoms of stress. So, in the physical side, we have the muscle tensions, headaches, upset stomach, rapid heartbeat, chest pain, sweating palms, and a weakened immune system. Not something we want right now, right? From the emotional side, you might experience irritability, anger, feeling overwhelmed, loneliness, unhappy mood. And from a cognitive symptom perspective, we have memory challenges, difficulty concentrating, anxious or racing thoughts, constant worrying, and fatigue. So, again, you can use this list and maybe circle the symptoms that impact you. You might even have some other symptoms that are, into your experience of stress. So, identifying that can make it easier to get ahead of your stress management, rather than letting it boil up and feel like, again, it's that overflowing bucket. Now, in addition to that, we want to do a moment of pause to always check in with ourselves throughout the day. And this is a really effective evaluation tool for identifying where your stress falls on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, the lowest stress, 10, the highest stress, 5, it's somewhere in the middle. So, at different times throughout the day, you might check in with yourself and be able to identify things that are stressful, but maybe again a little bit on the lower side, more manageable, versus if a very high stress is coming your way, you can not only take the time to reflect on that, right, with the personal check in of the stress, but you might even be able to more quickly tap into your stress management techniques before the stress goes well beyond manageable. So, from the stress management side, first we're checking in with our stress, we're identifying what the stressor is, right? Maybe it's that work deadline. That will rate at about a 5 out of 10 because it's something that you know you'll get done, you've got done before, but you still have that deadline looming and you're not sure if you're going to make it, right? So that can be very stressful to us. So, first, think, how do you currently respond to stress? We all have our ways, our current management techniques, whether they're good for us, not so good for us, or somewhere neutral. So, an example might be, oh, I have that work deadline it's coming up tomorrow, kind of putting it off. Let's go, where's the chocolate, right? We might stress eat. We might get into alcohol. We might smoke cigarettes. We might go take a walk. We might journal. We might call a friend. We might take a moment of pause, walk away from our desk, right? There's a full range of different ways you might respond to that stress. Now, the next question you might ask yourself is, how effective is this response in actually addressing the stressor, whether it means it goes away or making it a lower stressor? So, as an example, if we're stressed, work deadline, we immediately grab the chocolate. And for a moment, we might feel kind of good. It might taste really good. It might take our mind off of the work deadline. We might feel a little bit happy. But let's say a minute later, 10 minutes later, an hour later, was it very helpful? Was it very effective? The deadline's still there. Now you just wasted some time. Maybe you're stressed because you overate. You ate too much sugar, and that was against your health goals, and you feel conflicted about that. So in the end, that actually might make us even more stressed. Versus if we have that work deadline and we decide to take a moment of pause, go do a loop around the block, get outside, get some fresh air, and then come back to our desk. Was that effective? Well, maybe in the moment you're thinking, well, it's taking away time. The clock's ticking on that deadline. But by the time I got back to my desk, I was able to think more clearly. I had more energy. I was able to focus. So, yeah, now my stress is a lot lower. That is an effective strategy. So, I encourage you to do this for all of your different stress management techniques that you presently hold. And if you find that there is something you're doing that's not so effective, again, maybe it's stress eating, maybe it's alcohol, for instance, those are maybe opportunities to find some new techniques, replace them with healthier habits. All right, so let's go over some of those techniques that we're recommending you try out to replace the not so effective techniques. This one is our stress journal. I don't know about you, but I love journaling. It's just a way for you to kind of work through things, coach yourself, problem solve, and get whatever's going on up here and put it down on paper. So, this is a very targeted way to do a stress journal versus just free writing, which can also be helpful. But I encourage you to try this out. What caused your stress? How do you feel? How did you respond? What patterns do you see? And what works does not work. So this is a little template you could write down. And here's an example of how you can use this journaling technique. This person did their journal on April 12th, 2017, 9:30 a.m. So what caused their stress? I unexpectedly was asked to do drop-off duty tomorrow when I arrived at my child's school today. How did you feel? Overwhelmed, frustrated, pressured, racing heart. So again, those specific symptoms that you felt. How did you respond? I agreed to the task without taking time to assess if I would be able to make the time for it. I have too much paperwork to complete tomorrow morning. All right, so that makes sense that you would feel overwhelmed, right? What patterns do you see? I often say yes to tasks too quickly, which I do not feel prepared to take on. What works does not work. Rate your response as ineffective to effective. My response was ineffective as it caused me stress, a rating of 1. Response that may work in the future. Let me first check my schedule before committing. So again, that's not rocket science, right? To have that improved response, but by taking a moment to journal about it, you're able to really process how you would like to improve upon your previous automatic response of saying yes to everything. Here's another technique. Again, you can do this in a journaling activity as well, where you kind of make a chart and you're asking yourself these vital questions to categorize your stressors. The first category is this stressor is both important and I can control it. The second one is the stressor is important, but I can't control it. The third one, the stressor is unimportant and I can control it. And then the fourth one is unimportant and I can't control it. Okay, so that feels like a lot of categories, but I promise you, once you fill in your stressors in each of those categories, it will give you a little bit of relief to know what you can tackle first and how you can tackle it. So let's go a few examples. Important and controllable. An example, you dislike your apartment. Well, where you live, I'd say that's pretty important. And the good thing is, for most of us, where we live, we can control. So you can apply action. You can maybe start looking at some new apartments in the area. Maybe your apartment's very cluttered and it makes you stressed out. So another action you could take is redecorating, reorganizing. You can also apply different coping skills. So again, figuring out if it might take 6 months to move out of this apartment, figure out how you can accept that and be okay with that temporarily until you're able to change it. An example of something that's important and uncontrollable might be a family member has a serious illness. Very important, right? To have worry about this person. But can you control the outcome? No. And that can be even more stressful to know that you can't control it. So finding acceptance around that and then figuring out what you can do. You know, can you show them support? Can you send a card? Can you go visit, right? That might make you feel a little bit better, but even might feel better just by accepting that I can't control the outcome of this experience, even though it's stressful. An example of something that's unimportant but controllable might be laundry, dishes piling up, different chores around the house, right? That can be stressful, knowing that they're sitting there waiting for you, they need to get done. But let's be real, if it doesn't get done right away, will the world end? It won't. Okay. So it is important, but it's not the end all be all, right? So again, we can use our skills like apply action, maybe say, you know what, I'm very tired tonight. I'm just going to go get some sleep. But right when I wake up tomorrow morning, they will get done before I have my morning coffee. You know, come up with some rule for yourself to get them checked off your list and have a successful next day. And then lastly, unimportant and uncontrollable. So this is the this is the category that, you know, we can kind of be able to not prioritize in our list. Example, music concert was canceled. You know, that's not ideal. We want to be able to go to it, but in the big scheme of things, it's not that important, and we had no control over it. So again, the coping skills, how we frame it, saying, you know what, that really stinks. I really wanted to go, but I'll be able to go to the next one when they reschedule the concert. All right, brush that one aside, moving on to the next, rather than lingering on it and thinking about it too much. Another technique is the 4 A's. This is also, again, a journaling activity that you can piggyback from the previous activity, another way to organize your stressors. This is called the 4 A's. The first A is avoid unnecessary stress to begin with. So, kind of that unimportant, uncontrollable category, right? We could maybe figure out ways to just avoid things that are causing us unnecessary stress. So, an example might be say you always say yes to everything, right? The pickup of the kids, just an automatic yes. Can you figure out that nice sentence of, I need to check my schedule first and I'll get back to you? That's a great technique. Another one might be you have a pretty stressful commute to work. Well, could you change the commute? Do you have to drive that way or could you drive another way? Second A, alter the situation. So we might not be able to avoid it completely, but by altering it, we might have a better experience. So let's go back to the commuting example. Maybe you don't have another way you can commute. There's only one way to go, and it's trafficy and it's stressful. But you know what? Could you use that time to listen to a really informative or funny podcast that keeps you engaged? And all of a sudden, you're back home and it wasn't as stressful. The third A, adapt to the stressor. So this might be, again, we can't change the stressor, but can we change our response to it? So a great way would be to reframe the situation so it doesn't feel as stressful. Oh, my commute to work, it is stressful for me, but you know what? I feel really grateful to have a job, have this car that's very comfortable with the air conditioning and my XM radio. And you know what? In the big scheme of things, this is okay. That might make us lower our stress response. And last but not least, accept the things you cannot change. So, that feeling of acceptance rather than resistance of things that you just can't control or you can't change will provide you with relief, will make you feel a little bit better, that you don't have to hold on to that stress. Okay, you ready for some more? We we have a few stress management techniques that maybe you're already doing. We'll give you some reminders, but we'll kind of rapid fire these and maybe take some notes on things that you are willing to try. So the first category we'll go over right now is the time management category. Things like creating a to-do list, really powerful in prioritizing your day and not feeling like you have to keep everything up here. Prioritizing that to-do list as well. So what has to get done versus what can wait. Planning, this could be planning, your work, it could be planning your chores, could be planning your food. Having a plan, again, takes things from our brain and puts them on paper or into an action planning book. Use a calendar and learning how to say no, which helps us to set boundaries in terms of our priorities, right? If we are able to say no to one thing, that opens us up to tackle the things that are more important. Another category is around relaxation. So we'll get over these in a little bit more detail, but I really like the one interacting with pets. I know most of us are home a lot more than usual, so we might get more time with our pets and just taking 30 seconds, getting away from your work and go pet your animal. You might feel a little bit better, but let's get into some of these others in more detail. Starting with meditation. So meditation doesn't always come easy to us. Some of us have gravitated towards it, some of us have not, but there's many ways you can do it. Essentially, it helps us to gain new perspective on stressful situations. It increases self-awareness by being present. And here are some of the types. Guided meditation, where you might start out with this, where you actually get to listen to maybe someone else walking you through a wonderful walk on the beach with your eyes closed and you can hear the waves and smell the sand, right? That can be really beneficial. Maybe there's YouTube videos and apps that walk you through that. Mindfulness meditation. So even just walking through our day, being more present and aware of the here and now versus getting ahead of ourselves or obsessing over the past. Qigong, Tai Chi, or yoga are really applying moving meditations, moving our breath and our body, helping us to stay present with where we are, and relaxed breathing techniques. Here are a few resources: stopbreathethink.org and calm.com. Another popular one is Headspace, people enjoy for guided practice. Here are those breathing exercises, at least two that you could try right away. The reason I really like these is they're accessible to you at any moment in the day. They're free. You don't need anything except yourself and maybe a somewhat quiet space. First one is 4-7-8 breathing exercise. Breathe in for 4 seconds. And you can usually keep your mouth closed, breathe in through your nose. Hold at the top for 7 seconds and breathe out for a slow 8 seconds, and then repeat that cycle. Box breathing, fairly similar, but a different count. And you're going to alternate breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. But it's 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold. And you just repeat that. So if you pictured it in your mind, it would almost look like a box. Very even. You can kind of do it maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes at most. And you'll notice when you're done, you can approach your day from a much calmer state. All right, a few other tips here. Joy and laughter, the best medicine we have. Did you know that laughing can add 6 times more oxygen to your body than even breathing does? So find ways to laugh and have fun. Maybe this is a funny YouTube video. Maybe it's watching stand-up comedy. Maybe it's, playing with our animals or our children with just a lightheartedness. Try something new, try a new hobby. This is what life's all about. You also want to think about a healthy lifestyle when it comes to stress management. So I can't say enough about the importance of being a regular exerciser when it comes to our mental health. We always think about it for our physical health, but I really think it's the best medicine we have for our mental health. It does a lot of things that we may not even consider, but first, it can help relieve like muscle tension that we might have when we're stressed out. It can distract us, take us away from whatever we were stressed about for 30 minutes, an hour, however long you can commit. It releases endorphins or those feel good chemicals throughout the body. It almost is like that moving meditation in a way, depending on the type of exercise you do. But let's say walking or jogging, you don't really have to think that hard and you're just doing that repetitive movement. That can be very therapeutic and relaxing. And just generally feeling of confidence and strength and power that we get from exercise. Eating a healthy diet can help us to feel a stronger sense of control, feel more energized, more balanced blood sugar, and all to support the rest of our day. And of course, getting enough sleep. We could have a whole nother talk just on sleep itself, but here are just a few takeaway tips. Having a regular sleep routine that includes weekends and weekday, keep it the same. Avoiding naps, improve your sleep environment, and of course, the importance of exercise to get our energy out during the day and have a restful evening. Grow your support network. This can be really important when we feel lonely or when we feel like we have to tackle it all ourselves. That even overflows our bucket even more. So cast a wide net, figure out how you can get different types of support in your life. Maybe you have a best friend, but don't just rely on him or her. Maybe you have your family members. Maybe you have your significant other. Maybe you have a support group that's online or in person. What else? You could think of social media. There's a lot of different peer support groups that are offered where you can find similar minded people who are going through a same experience. And that can help us not to feel like we're in it alone and also get that tips and support from your peers. When necessary, ask for help, right? We're not in it alone. We do have resources, and there's always professional help available to us during times of struggle. We'll go over some options that Rees-Stealy offers in just a moment. Last but not least, we know that stress management is a skill. Okay, that's an interesting way to think about it, that we have to practice it. And we ideally want to be practicing it during times of low stress. if you don't really think about stress management, all of a sudden a big life event happens that's very stressful and you haven't been practicing these things, your meditation, your exercise, your healthy eating, your journaling. I don't think that's the time to be creating those habits, right? You want to be practicing them at all times, even and most importantly during times of low stress, so that when you have your higher stress, they will be automatically implemented. You want to start small and set SMART goals to incorporate new techniques. So don't say, from this presentation, you're going to do everything. That is unrealistic. But instead, you could start with just one thing, maybe just one journaling activity that you'll do every Sunday evening before the work week. I feel much more relieved. And then just keep doing that. The consistency is what matters when you're building up a new skill, a new habit. And if things end up not working well for you, or if you have setbacks, don't be afraid to reevaluate your plan so that you can try something different or try it in a new way. So, for instance, I know for me, I've tried meditation before and it didn't go well. It didn't make me feel relaxed. I was overthinking everything. But when I do meditation in a moving style, like in yoga, I have great success with it. So I had to tweak the way I did it. Okay, let's go over some of those resources that we offer, and then I'll leave you today. So one is health coaching. This is done over the phone. It's offered to sharp Rees-Stealy patients only. It is free, and you get about 8 one-on-one support sessions from a certified health coach. It can be really powerful for helping you set those goals, helping you overcome challenges, building those skills, and you get a lot of great education on all different health topics, but particularly stress management. We also offer free wellness classes. They're open to the whole community and they are free. We have something called New Way, which is for nutrition education and healthy lifestyle education, healthy hearts, stress management, of course, as we are doing right now, tobacco cessation. And these are offered sometimes in person. Right now, they are only offered online. You can sign up by calling 858 499 2600, or you can even register yourself at sharp.com/wellness. That's all for today. Thank you so much for attending, and hopefully you got at least one great takeaway to improve your stress management toolbox. All right, take care.